Chapter 10. 2 days later, the new washing machine arrived while my dad and I were working, as did an unexpected guest, Uncle Ming. Uncle Ming wasn't really my uncle. That was just what we called family friends in China. But he had worked in the same hot, sweaty kitchen as my dad last year, and we hadn't seen him since then. How he managed to drive himself to Cala Vista, I had no idea, because smoke was coming out of the hood of his car when he arrived, and the bumper was falling off. And Uncle Ming himself actually looked worse than his car. He had a swollen black eye and bruises all over his cheeks and neck. "What happened to you?" my dad asked, rushing over to help his wonderful friend inside. He led Uncle Ming to the kitchen. Uncle Ming winced as he slid into the chair, like it hurt even to sit. "It's a long story," he said. His thick Beijing accent made me feel like I was back home. He lifted his puffy eyes and peered at my dad. "It's good to see you, old friend." My dad gave my Uncle Ming a hug while I took out his things and put them inside one of the guest rooms, room 1, the nicest one. When I got back, the two were in deep conversation, talking about sharks, of all things. That was weird. I didn't want to disturb them, so I stood in the corridor listening. "But why, Ming? Why did you go to the loan sharks?" my dad asked. "I wasn't planning on it, but then I lost my job," Uncle Ming said. $100 turned into $500, and before I knew it— "How much do you owe them?" $5,000, Uncle Ming said. His voice cracked as he said the number. My dad said a swear word in Chinese. "What do I do, buddy?" "They're going to kill me if I don't pay up," Uncle Ming cried. I gasped at the word kill. They both looked up at me and immediately dropped the subject. They didn't bring up sharks or loans again the whole evening. That didn't stop me from thinking about it, though. After dinner, my parents and Uncle Ming reminisced about China. I slipped out the back door. Hank wasn't in his room, but Billy Bob's lights were on. I peered inside and saw that the Weeklies were just starting another game of Monopoly. "Mia," they exclaimed when Billy Bob opened his door. "Come and join us." I grinned. I loved Monopoly. "Can I be the hat?" I asked them, plopping down on Billy Bob's bed. The hat in Monopoly looked nice. It looked like a rich man's hat. The shoe, on the other hand, looked like a poor man's shoe. "You can be anything you want," Billy Bob said, handing me the hat. He selected the race car for himself and the iron for Hank. Fred picked the wheelbarrow. Quickly, we set up the game. Billy Bob and Fred made me the bank. As we played, I turned to Hank and asked him if he knew anything about loan sharks. "Oh, that's nothing you want to get involved with," he said. "No siree. You want to stay as far away as you can from that rabbit hole." He explained that a loan shark was someone who loaned people money with very high interest. "What's interest?" I asked him. "Interest is like a fee you pay the person for borrowing the money. So if you want to borrow $10 from me, I would say, okay, but you got to give me $12 back. Otherwise, what do I get out of it?" "So the $2 is the interest," he said. "But a loan shark," Billy Bob jumped in, "a loan shark doesn't want $12 back. He wants $20 back, or even $50. $50? I asked. "What kind of people would agree to that?" "Desperate people," Hank said. "People who can't get loans anywhere else." "And what happens if they don't pay them back?" Hank sucked in air. "You don't want to know," he said. I turned to Fred. "They'll come and find you," Fred said. "Beat you up, or worse." I felt myself go cold. Just then, Hank let out a squeal. "Hot diggity dog, will you look at that? I now own Pennsylvania Avenue and Park Place." Hank howled with glee. "Pay up, Mia. That'll be $50 a night." I handed him $50. Hank took the Monopoly money and kissed it. "Someday, Mia," he said softly. "Someday." "Someday what?" Billy Bob asked, chuckling. "You'll really own Pennsylvania Avenue and Park Place?" "Hey, it could happen." "If it could happen in Monopoly, why not in real life?" Hank insisted. "Isn't that right, Mia?" I looked at Hank. I had a feeling he was just trying to make me feel good, but I thought I saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes too. "Right," I quickly said. Chapter 11. Uncle Ming stayed for 3 days until he could get his car fixed. With his broken English, he had a hard time communicating with garages, so I helped him call one up that was close by. At first, they weren't so keen to help. When they heard my voice, they said, "Sorry, we don't work with toy cars." I called back, and this time I borrowed a line from my customers. "I'd like to speak to the manager," I said. In the end, I got the manager to send someone over to the motel to take a look at Uncle Ming's car. The repair guy told Uncle Ming he had a radiator problem. They managed to drive the car over to the garage where they fixed it for him. But when it came time to settle the bill, Uncle Ming came horribly short. We'd given him $50, which was just about all the extra cash we had. What with Mr. Yao changing the deal and making us pay for the washing machine, but the total bill was $200. So then Uncle Ming tried something crazy. He tried to pay the rest in coupons. He'd been collecting coupons from all over. There were coupons for free chicken nuggets at McDonald's, free haircuts at Supercuts, and free frozen yogurt. There were even coupons for free foot massages. "You can't pay with coupons," the garage manager wailed. "What am I going to do with free foot massages?" "We'll take them," his mechanics blurted out from the back of the garage. "Please, sir," Uncle Ming begged the manager. "It's all I have." The manager looked at Uncle Ming for a while, and after much deliberation, he sighed. He took the $50 and the coupons, which he distributed to his mechanics. Everybody cheered. I couldn't believe it. We all waved as Uncle Ming drove away. He promised to return soon and pay my parents back the $50. My dad told him not to worry about it and focus on getting far, far away from the loan sharks. In school that week, Mrs. Douglas asked us to write a short story. I really wanted to write about the loan sharks, but I didn't know if that was too out there. So I tried to look around to see what other people were writing. Next to me, Jason was scribbling furiously, covering his words with his hands as he wrote. I leaned over, trying to peek at his writing, but Jason shifted his body, blocking my view with his arm. Great. Now he had an arm wall. He turned to me and hissed, "Stop it," then narrowed his eyes at me. "Mia, eyes on your own paper, please," Mrs. Douglas frowned. She said it like I was cheating. I opened my mouth in protest, then closed it. I blew out my bangs in frustration instead and plunged my eyes down on the blank page in front of me. "Remember, show, not tell. Write what you feel, kids," Mrs. Douglas announced to the class. "If you're mad, write mad. If you're sad or you're worried, write sad and worried." I was all those things. I thought about Uncle Ming and his black eye and the way his voice rose and fell like a curtain when he said, "What do I do, buddy? They're going to kill me." But when I put my pencil down onto the paper, do you know what marched onto the page? Puppies and houses. At lunch, Lupe sat next to me, picking at her turkey sandwich while I gobbled up my free school spaghetti. "Why were you looking at Jason's paper?" Lupe asked. "You don't like him, do you?" "Are you kidding? I can't stand him." "Good, because he's terrible," Lupe said. "You don't even know the half of it," I muttered, shaking my head. "So what'd you write about?" "I wrote about how last weekend my parents and I waited in line at the movies for an hour. And when we finally got up to the ticket booth lady, they were sold out. Isn't that sad?" "That is super sad," I said, wishing, hoping one day that would be my super sad. "What about you? What'd you do this weekend?" she asked. I turned to tell her about Uncle Ming, then thought, nah, she wouldn't get it. That was so beyond the world of movies and trampolines and Shiba Inus. "Just played with my dog," I lied. After lunch, we went to PE. We were playing softball that day. Both Lupe and I stood way out in left field, as far away from the action as we could, since we both hated sports. Actually, I didn't really hate sports. We just didn't have any medical insurance, and my parents didn't want me taking any chances. "What if you break your arm?" my mom asked when I started going to school in America. "What if a ball comes flying, hits you in the head, and you have to have stitches?" Back in China, this would have been no problem as my uncle was a doctor. Whenever I got sick, he'd come over and take care of me. My uncle always wore his stethoscope around his neck, and when we left for America, he gave it to my dad to take with him. "I wish I could take you with me," my dad said to his brother. I'm sure there are doctors in America, my uncle said with a chuckle. It turned out there were doctors, just not for us. So my mom made me promise every morning that I'd stay on the sidelines during gym class. It wasn't always easy to just stand and watch, but now at least I had Lupe with me. Today we were so busy chatting we didn't even notice when the softball landed right next to us. Lupe glanced at the ball and went right back to chatting. She didn't even pick it up. She must really hate sports.